What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Ready Set Hike podcast. I'm your co-host Brandon, joined today with my co-host Paul. And today we're going to be going over the Week 6 recap for the NFL. I know we talked last episode about the games going into the week, and now we're just going to go over them, share our opinions or thoughts, some of our favorite stats, and of course the outcomes from each game. Make sure to also check us on our social medias as well, on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and those will all be in the bio below. Thank you guys, in the description below. Thank you guys, though, for the continued support as we get into week 3, as we just want to continue to improve. Hopefully this time my co-host doesn't sit on his microphone and turn it off. But with that being said, let's jump right into the first game, which was Thursday, October 13th, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. We had the 1-4 Washington Commanders visiting the 2-3 Chicago Bears. For betting, it was an even line, and the outcome of the game was a 12-7 victory for the Commanders. Paul, what did you think about that game?
It was another Thursday night stinker, kind of. The Bears actually dominated this game. They had way more scrimmage yards than the Commanders the entire game. The the only problem was they couldn't convert when they got in the red zone. They had one time where they got at the 5 yard line. Fields threw a ball off a guy's helmet, and it went up in the air for an interception. And then there was another time where they went for it on like a 4th and goal, and were not able to get it. So it really was just they weren't able to convert on the red zone opportunities. I mean, if you take those two opportunities alone, and if they got field goals, then it's a different game. They could have 13 points.
Yeah.
So one big thing to note is Brian Robinson finally got his first touchdown, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah. In this game, I mean, once again, another primetime game, like you said, that kind of just disappointed. I
Yeah.
mean, we've had, unfortunately, and we'll get into it, the Broncos for a few primetime games this year, and they all,
Low scoring.
low scoring and
Yeah.
just suck to watch. This game was, I thought was interesting, just to watch, in my opinion, because it's two teams with not a lot of wins, still both had questions around quarterback.
Yep.
Justin Fields being in year 2, new coach, and Carson Wentz being in a new system completely. Uh, but my thing is similar to like how you said about Justin Fields. Both
And now Wentz is actually out.
Carson Wentz is
Yeah.
now he's hurt for like what 4 to 6 weeks
Yeah,
or something
four to
like
six
that.
weeks. Yep.
Yeah. Um, my thing is with Justin Fields. I think we talked about it going into the week. Is like the team's not trusting him to make throws.
Yeah.
He's only getting like anywhere between 10 and 15 throws a game at that point.
And I'm starting to feel like he doesn't really trust his arm. They showed a couple times where he was just holding onto the ball for too long. There's a tight window throw, but the receiver's open, but he's not deciding to throw it, and he's ending up taking unnecessary sacks.
Exactly. I think that he's so worried about potentially turning the ball over,
Yeah.
that he just won't force himself to make those throws. Which, unfortunately, in this league, you just need to have that laser accuracy,
Yeah.
into any type of pocket, and that's what gets you that paycheck.
Yeah.
Other thing to note, though, I mean, Brian Robinson got his first touchdown, which was
Yeah.
cool to watch. And likewise, Khalil Herbert, who is he a rookie or a second year?
I don't think he's a rookie.
I
Maybe
think it's
second,
his
third
second year.
He had
But
that
also
big
had that
run.
big play.
Yeah.
So
And another thing to note is the Fields. His ability to run the ball is insane though.
Yeah.
At the end of that game, I thought they were gonna win the game. Honestly, he had like a huge 40-yard scramble. It got him in the red zone, but then they just completely stalled again. In
Yeah.
that last play at the end where he caught the ball, but he was down at like the 1 yard line, 1 inch line. It's crazy.
One other thing about Fields though too is watching the game. Every time he got hit, not even took a sack, but got hit,
It looked like he died.
he
It
looks
looked
like
like
he
he
died.
died.
He'd get
Yeah.
up, and he was always wincing, or he'd be
Yeah.
on the ground for like 10 seconds.
There was like 4 times in the game where I thought he died.
Every time they clip to Justin Fields after a hit, he's just motionless on the floor.
He looks
And
dead.
like, not to laugh about it, but it's like, I mean, luckily he's okay now. But like, you look at it, and you're like, he's dead,
Yep.
and it just happened repetitively. Like, unfortunately, and that's not fully on the line. Like, it's like you said,
Holding on to the ball.
holding
Yeah.
on to the ball, and it's something
I think
that
they
can work
showed that
through,
he has
though.
the longest time to throw in the league.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So he's just really taking his time too much. I mean, they also don't have the greatest receiving core, which
Yeah.
doesn't help. Like Mooney's solid,
I like Darnell Mooney a lot.
but otherwise, they're not that great across the board.
Exactly, and I think the other problem with that, and like I mean, yes, he's a second-year player, so like things will get better hopefully, but like obviously when he was at Ohio State, he had a lot more time to throw. He could
Yeah,
stand in that pocket all day.
yeah,
Ohio State being a top 3 team every year,
yeah,
he's gonna have protection. Now he's on the Bears.
yeah,
Even if he had a solid line, you're still looking for too much time. This is the NFL.
yeah.
So, but hopefully both teams can give us something fun to watch throughout the rest of the year. I know the Chicago Bears are playing the Patriots
Monday night,
Monday
another
night next
prime
week.
time.
Yeah, another prime time. So hopefully the Patriots smoke them. But from there we'll move on to the next game that we had on our slate.
So starting out with the 1 o'clock slate, the Minnesota Vikings defeating the Miami Dolphins 24-16. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, two most important things are the Dolphins lost. Happy about that as a Patriot fan.
Yeah,
I know that they had struggles with their quarterback going into the week, and it only got worse
yeah,
because the third string and starting quarterback for the week got hurt.
yep.
They actually had to get the
They
second
brought
string
yeah,
to come back in, who was on concussion protocol less than a week ago.
which I heard the reason
So,
why Bridgewater didn't start was because McDaniel said he wants his starter to have all the first team reps, and Skylar Thompson was heading the first team reps, and then Bridgewater was cleared on like around Wednesday.
yeah,
Which
something like
yeah,
that. But
but it's
now,
still weird.
yeah, and it's funny because, like, their quarterback struggles are just
Yeah.
getting worse and worse.
I mean, they haven't had a quarterback start the game and finish the game in like 3-4 weeks. So,
Exactly.
and now they've lost their third straight. They're at 500.
Yep. And once again, as a Patriot fan, I'm very happy to see that. But the big news of the game is Mike Gesicki with the gritty. Supposedly he reclaimed himself.
It was
to
better.
some.
It was better than last week, but Justin Jefferson still said he did. He
Yeah.
did not approve of it.
Did not approve, and I know Mike Gesicki was tweeting back saying he'll leave it for home now. But nonetheless, though, I watching the game once again. It was one of those games where it seemed like it was a lot more defensive
yeah,
than offensive, and the score kind of reflects that.
yeah,
Being a lower score game.
yeah. It was a
Still.
pretty crappy game. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like the Vikings should have handled it a little bit better. Like,
I mean, the
yeah,
Vikings sitting at 4-1 going into the week.
yeah,
I mean, if you're gonna try to take your division, and then you can only put up 24 points with that offense that you have, I mean that says something.
yeah,
It says something either about your receivers, your running backs, your offensive line, your tight ends, even your quarterback. And especially when you have weapons like you do, I mean, who else can you blame besides Kirk Cousins back there?
yeah,
Maybe it's time in the offseason for a change. I guess we'll see that.
yeah.
But anything else you wanted to add about
I mean,
that game?
yeah. Dalvin Cook looked really solid in the game.
He started off slow
Yeah.
though, right?
Yeah, but he did a solid game. I think he had around like 70 rushing yards.
He had scored though, right? Because I think I had him
Yeah.
I had him in fantasy for, I think for underdog for +1 touchdown or something like that.
Yeah, I
And
don't
think he sold for me, but
yeah,
nonetheless, once again, just happy they lost. And
yeah.
I can care less for the Vikings, but I know that.
I mean, now they're in a good spot for the division.
Yeah, I mean,
After
sitting
the
at
Packers
5-1.
lost, so
That's right, and the Packers are
they're sitting pretty. They're 2 games in the lead, I think, for the division now.
something like that. So, um, definitely an interesting matchup. I'm excited to see where each team goes though, because I think both teams have the potential to completely flip 180. I think
Yeah.
the Vikings have the potential to lose here on out, depending on play. The Dolphins have the potential to win here on out.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if Tua's coming back. I don't know if he's
Yeah,
coming
he's
back
playing
this week.
next week. Yep.
He's playing next week, so it's going to be interesting to see if the addition of him back into the lineup is going to change how they play, and I think it will.
Yeah, I think it should be a big improvement.
Yeah, I could easily see them winning another, go on another run where they win 3 in a row or 4 in a row. I don't know their schedule, but I mean, they did beat the Bills. And
That was
I
an
think,
impressive game. After that game, everybody thought they were really legit. I mean, I think if Tua never got hurt, I mean, they might have won that Thursday night game
absolutely.
because Bengals barely beat them even after Tua got hurt. So,
But we're also at the same time, like, you got to think the Bengals when they won, Tua got hurt in that game. So then Teddy comes in, and even if he was lights out, he didn't have reps with first team.
yeah,
um, stuff like that. Like that was basically his first start for the season.
Yeah, and then he
So
gets
that's gonna
hurt
be
in the
tough.
first play of the Jets game.
Exactly, and then now the Jets. If you look at the last two games, both the Jets and the Vikings, both teams look like contenders through week 6.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's been impressive.
so
Yeah,
I mean, if losing to contenders, I don't ever think is a problem.
yeah,
You know, so uh, but yeah, I mean, both teams, like I said, definitely going to be interesting to watch down the slate.
yeah,
But that brings us to the New England Patriots, who were sitting at 2-3 going into the week. Or sorry, yeah,
yeah.
both teams were sitting at 2-3, but the Patriots versus the Browns in Cleveland, and Cleveland was a 2.5 point, uh, minus 2.5 points on the spread. Patriots ended up winning that game
A
38
rout.
to 15. So what did you think about that game?
Well, your boy Tyquan Thornton got his first receiving touchdown, and then he got a rushing touchdown.
I was in the live stream right
Uh,
after.
Bailey
Fucking
Zapp had a good game, over 300 yards. Belichick getting the win, ties George House for second all time with 323 wins. I don't know if you actually saw there was a play, a special teamer had like a big play for them. But it was like still like 4 minutes left in the game, and he tried to give Bill Belichick the ball with like 4 minutes left, and Belichick was like, "I don't want the ball."
Yeah,
Yeah,
Belichick is
he's like,
such
I
an
don't even.
interesting character.
He probably doesn't even know who the hell that guy is. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, the game's not over. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So he probably got his ass.
Probably got chewed out for
Yeah,
that. Might be cut by the end of the week, but yeah, I mean, as a Patriot fan, that was a great performance. I mean, by offense,
yeah.
defense, special teams, all around. First off, Bailey Zappi comes in, throws for, is it 2 touchdowns?
Over 300.
Over 300 yards. This is only his second start.
Yeah.
I mean, and he looks honestly like amazing through the 3 games he did play, the 2 stars especially.
So I gotta ask you, do you have a quarterback controversy?
Yes,
Yeah,
and I hate to say it because that's like a hot take. I'm a huge Mac Jones fan.
yeah.
Uh, I can attest for it. I don't know if I still have it saved, but if I go into my Instagram DMs and I go to the Patriots, I
Fanboy.
went through a period in July where I messaged them for 30 days straight asking for a signed Mac Jones jersey, waiting for the answer still. But yes, I'm a huge fan of Mac Jones. I love the way he plays, love the way he leads the team, love his mentality. He fits the Patriots scheme of work hard, and just continue to get better.
Yeah,
My problem is similar to like how a lot of Cowboys fans were talking about Cooper Rush.
yeah,
If you're winning with a quarterback, that's what matters more to me.
yeah. And I
If
think it's a
we
little bit different too, cause he's performing like
he's actually
yeah,
leading a team.
yeah, It's Cooper Rush is more so like just a part of the team.
Yeah.
Zab is doing way better.
And I'm curious though to see like we played the Lions, who are nothing to talk home about.
Yeah.
And then we talked about we played the Cleveland Browns, who, depending on the
I mean,
week,
it's an impressive victory in my opinion.
no, I think so too.
Yeah.
And I went into it thinking they were gonna win, but the Cleveland Browns have a stacked defense.
Yeah.
They have great, they have a great secondary, and then you're coming up versus
Clowney and Garrett.
exactly.
I think Stefanski's maybe getting himself on the hot seat. I mean, now they're 2-4.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I also think that his job is kind of safe until Deshaun Watson comes in.
yeah,
If they can win with Deshaun, that's a different story. If they can't win with Deshaun, it'll be a different story.
yeah,
But like, why would you cut a coach who's playing with a backup?
yeah. It's true. And Brissett, he was playing very well like to start the season, the first few games, but now he's looking like a backup quarterback.
Now he's
out
looking like
there.
Brissett.
Yeah. I mean, he had one interception that just looked really bad, like
Yeah.
just dumb decision making,
Yep.
just frustrating. You see, Amari Cooper had a crazy touchdown too, in the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
That was pretty sick.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Amari Cooper. I think I also talked about it going into this week. They just need to get him involved more.
Yeah, get him in the ball.
Like they're for the player that he is, the player that he was, and just how much of a freak of nature he is on top of it.
Yeah.
Not the tallest, not the fastest, not the strongest, but just the combination of being good at everything,
Yeah.
and then being a great route runner with great hands. I mean, you guys got him there for a reason. They need to utilize him more. I'm happy he got a touchdown, but like still not enough in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, Last thing though too, I just wanted to mention about the team. We talked about Tyquan Thornton scoring not only his first NFL rushing touchdown or his first NFL receiving touchdown, but also his rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
I like the way that they're utilizing him already.
Yeah,
I
he
think
looks
he had
solid.
like 44% or 51% of like snap counts. For only his second start, which is like really impressive.
Mhm.
The other thing is if the workload's going to increase, that's something I'm a fan of. We drafted him in the second round. I want him to be used,
Was this his
as a
first
player.
game?
Second.
Second game.
Yeah, he played last week, but he didn't amount to like any big stats. I think he was like two
Yeah,
catches for like 7 yards. But
just building up. I mean, you gotta
yeah,
get those reps, get up to game speed.
but like people forget he's 6'2", which is on the taller end of receivers,
Yeah.
but also ran a 4.28 40. Like the dude is lightning fast,
Yeah,
and
it's a weapon.
still is 6'2".
Yeah.
That's a weapon right there in the building, as long as they continue to craft him.
Mhm. But I think that brings us to our next game. We had the San Francisco 49ers at the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons with a pretty good upset. They won 28-14. They remain undefeated against the spread also, which is an interesting note. What are your thoughts on this game?
So once again, coming from a Patriot fan, Jimmy Garoppolo is obviously back,
Yeah.
leading the 49ers. I think it was more his game to lose than the 49ers to win. You
Yeah.
know, the reason I say that is because Jimmy Garoppolo plays the game as a manager. He's not somebody who's going to win you a game, and that's kind of what it seemed like.
Yeah.
Mariota on the other side at quarterback played, I think, an insane game.
Super efficient.
Like very hyper efficient. Wasn't a ridiculously high passing game for him. I think he only had 14 attempts, but he hit 13 of those.
Yep.
Did hit 2 touchdowns, and then when he needed to, he utilized his legs.
Yep.
It wasn't a matter of him rushing too much or passing too much. It was like, I'm gonna pass first. My legs are there if I need it,
Yeah.
and like that right there, just was such a good balance. And I mean, that's like if he could do that every week, like he could be their starter like long term.
Yeah.
You know?
And one thing that shocked me though is the Niners with only 50 rushing yards in this game.
Yeah.
Especially being such a good run team, like Jeff Wilson was having a solid year. Um, Another thing to note though is the Niners they were banged up. A few of their defensive players were out.
Nick Bosa.
Mosley, Bosa, and then Hufanga got concussion protocol.
Yep.
He's one of my favorite players in the league. But the Falcons, I mean, they're hanging in there, 3-3. They're in the mix. I mean, it seems like this year most teams are around 500. There's not a whole lot of upper echelon and lower echelon teams. There's just like a whole lot of middle of the pack
Yeah, but I
teams.
think
So
I think a lot of that will start to even out through the next couple weeks.
yeah, it's been
Or
weird.
not even out, but spread apart.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think the only reason I would say that their rushing game was like kind of less than this week is because they weren't playing within uh striking distance a lot. Like a lot of the
yeah,
game they played almost the entire game from behind.
down. Yeah,
So at that I think they were just trying to play catch up ball.
yeah,
And the problem is like I said, Jimmy G being a game manager, putting him in a position where he needs to win the game and it's on him. Not to say he choked. I mean, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and almost 300 yards. It's just those interceptions, were costly.
yeah,
Giving a hot offense a ball when you're down, screws you. And then as soon as they were down 2 scores, that was it.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, overall, I was shocked. I mean, I took the 49ers money line
yeah. I
in
thought the
like
Niners
three
would
different
win. Yeah,
parlays. I thought that the biggest. I mean, there was a lot of upsets this week, but I took the Niners, the Bucks, and who else? I took the Niners, the Bucks, and the Rams. Luckily, the
yeah,
Rams won, but it doesn't matter because I parlayed those games, and both teams got upset.
yeah.
But that actually brings us to the
The
next
next
game,
game.
which was the 3-2 Bucks going up against the 1-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. It was a -8 spread towards Tampa, and and the Steelers won the game 20-18.
Yeah.
Super shocking, but what do you think about that?
I mean, definitely one of the biggest upsets of the season thus far. I mean, you had Kenny Pickett. He was a rookie starter. He had his first passing touchdown of the season, but then he goes out with a concussion. Trubisky takes over. He's able to manage the game through the second half and able to win the game. I mean, this was a shocking game. Claypool had a huge game, 7 for 96. But I mean, I was pretty shocked. I mean, even though the Steelers were at home, this was like one of those just like any given Sunday type games, and
Yeah,
you can't, you never know who's really gonna win.
yeah. It always like this is always what I expect from the Steelers. And I know we talked about it last week. They haven't had a losing season in how long.
Yeah,
Um, but I think I talked about it either last week or the week prior, or the episode prior. But they have such a talented group of guys,
yeah, it's
and the coaching is there. So why aren't they winning games?
yeah,
You know, and that's what's always shocking to me is when you have the receiving core you have, the secondary that you have, the front seven that you have, the coaching you have, the quarterback that you're figuring out, but in my opinion have, and the running backs that you have. Why are you losing games?
yep.
And
It's
like luckily we got to see finally like when their receivers are being utilized and get open, they win games. You know,
yeah. I
like you
mean, I
said.
was just a huge fan of Claypool.
Yeah.
He hasn't really had like a big game
He
in a
hasn't done
long time.
anything since his rookie year.
Yeah, he's been pretty silent. Like he jumped on the scene very quickly, but he's been pretty quiet. But this is a very impressive win. Najee Harris had a pretty good game too. He had a touchdown.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna take him in fantasy, but I didn't because I know that last year he had like ridiculous amount of carries, and they
yeah,
were talking coming into this year that his workload was gonna be cut.
yeah,
But one of my favorite players to watch. I mean, he played at Bama, was ridiculous at Bama. He was ridiculous going into Bama.
yeah,
Like he was highly sought after in high school. Um, and like everyone knew who he was before he even got. He was like the top of his class, and like I've been following his journey like ever since then. But
yeah.
like, it just disappoints me because if you have I mean, I get it. You don't want to hurt your player, but like, look at the Titans. They rely
They
so
just
heavily on
yeah,
one player, and it works. And
yeah,
it's worked for years. When they started limiting carries, that's when they started losing games.
yeah,
You know,
and
and they only limited carries because of him getting hurt in the past, not
yeah,
because he couldn't handle it or because they felt like it. But how many seasons did he play without getting hurt?
yeah.
But
I
it can
mean,
go both ways though.
one last thing to note is the Bucks. Even though they're 3-3, they're still first in the division because they're just
Yeah,
in a crappy division.
a terrible division.
So I mean, even if it doesn't even matter this whole slip up, I mean, 3-3, it's not even gonna matter really. They're still playing from ahead.
Exactly.
So, uh, but yeah, that takes us into our next game. We had the Bengals at the Saints. Joe Burrow's return to New Orleans. 30-26, the Bengals won
Yeah.
in a very good game. What are your thoughts on this one?
I guess this you can call it a hot take, but I don't think the Bengals are going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah,
Um, you know, not that the Saints are a bad team necessarily, but I feel like even if they had Chris Olave in the game and their quarterback situation was better figured out right now, um, I think they would have won that game.
yeah,
And I guess you could say it's a home field advantage, stuff like that. But you got to remember the Bengals came into this game 2-3. And right now they're still just even. Um, and I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan. I thought that Jamar Chase was a stupid pick at the beginning. Last year he proved everyone wrong. Big fan of him. I'm happy he had a big game finally again. Um, because he started off the season really slow.
yeah,
And not even really slow, but like he's not in the headlines the way he was.
yep.
Um, but they just need to continue improving. I mean, I guess you could say
They
literally about
needed
every
this
team.
win so bad.
Oh yeah, if they fell to 2-4,
Yeah, they're
their confidence as a team would have dropped so low.
yep.
Um,
I mean,
but
Burrow had a monster game, 28 for 37, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks.
yeah,
His return to New Orleans, the last time he played there was the national championship where he went off
Yeah,
with Jamar
with
Chase.
Jamar Chase. He actually showed up to the stadium in a Jamar Chase jersey.
Game worn jersey, I
Yeah,
think.
I was cracking up.
Which is pretty cool. I mean, and it's pretty awesome that everyone knows. I mean, they both went to LSU. To have the connection in college and then be able to take it to the pros,
I think that's
which
the
doesn't
coolest
happen
thing
often.
ever.
Yeah.
Like even like I remember last year there was the game clips about like Jamar Chase was like heckling Burrow about he's like, oh, you see that over there? Yeah, that's the end zone or something like that. And, like both, I mean, they've literally been buddies for like
Yeah.
4 or 5 years now. Like
I
I think
mean, it's
that's
awesome.
sick.
Yeah.
But you know, I hope that they continue to grow as a duo.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love if 10 years from now, you know, they're still playing together.
Yeah.
You know, and Jamar's a Hall of Famer. Burrow could be a Hall of Famer if he could put shit together. I mean, anybody
Yeah.
but it can be, but I would love to see that connection just last. You
Yeah.
know, for both of their careers.
I mean, talking about receiving cores, we're talking about the Steelers. The Bengals also have just like a ridiculous receiving core too.
The most stacked receiving core on paper.
So you should expect them to put up points like this, 30 points.
Absolutely.
Especially going up against the Saints. I mean, even though they have a solid defense, but in the return game too, just all the extra incentive playing in front of people who used to root for you.
Yep.
So it's just pretty cool game. I mean, Jamar had the crazy like 50-yard touchdown, the game winner with 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
It was electric though.
Yeah, definitely a fun game to watch. But with that being said, guys, we just got to the end of the first segment, or sorry, the first clip. My timer is about to go off, so we're gonna take a break quick. When we get back, we will be here with the Baltimore Ravens versus the New York Giants. All right, guys, we are back. With the Baltimore Ravens versus the New York Giants. Baltimore was -6 going into this game against the spread. And the Giants actually won 24-20. Big underdog going into the week. Paul, what did you think about that game?
I mean, I love the performance from the Giants in this game. This was a big prove-it game. They were down 10 points. The Ravens had a touchdown on a play which should have been a delay of the game. Brian Dable was going berserk on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why I love him, because he really does give the refs crap when they screw up.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a big screw up. They were able to go down. They were able to be unfazed, go down the field, get a big touchdown to make it within 3 points. Then the Ravens trying to run the clock out. They force a interception with Julian Love, player that you like. He got a big interception. They're able to go down the field. Saquon scores the go-ahead touchdown.
Was that a rushing touchdown or a receiving touchdown for Saquon?
A rushing touchdown
Yeah.
at the one. And then Kayvon Thibodeau, the rookie, finally got his first sack with a sack fumble to basically clinch the game.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and we also had Wan'Dale Robinson finally get healthy. Player I've been talking about. He got his first touchdown. So the Giants rookies showed up, and a huge game for them.
Yeah, and I know you had talked about Wan'Dale Robinson last week because I had said something about how they should draft a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Or at least they need to hit on one.
Yeah, I mean,
and, now we see the rookie come in and do
Yeah.
it. And then who was the guy they drafted last year?
Tony. Yeah.
Weren't they talking about trading him at one point?
Yeah, in the offseason there was talks of trading him.
Like he's like a dickhead.
Yeah, I mean he does have some issues. He's actually a rapper too. He's Young Joker.
Stop it.
Yeah. But I mean I love this game from Daniel Jones too. He had a productive day. 19 of 27, 2 touchdowns, no picks.
Did he fumble at all?
No fumbles.
Oh, surprising. Definitely
And
surprising, man.
We talked about this last week too. Wink Martindale going against his former team.
Yep.
He had a revenge game. I mean, defense
Oh,
forced
yeah.
2 turnovers of Lamar. So
Yeah, I mean, going into the game, I thought it was going to be a lock. I mean, the Ravens, everyone was talking about how Lamar was MVP coming into the year after his first couple games.
yeah,
Honestly, as it goes on, he's
teared off a little bit.
yeah, he's almost capped off what his play is.
Yeah.
As you said, Julian Love. The only reason, one of my favorite players on that team, just because every time I turn the TV on, he's hit sticking somebody.
Yeah. He's been a great.
Definitely a bigger addition to that team, and definitely solidifies that defense. And I'm happy to see that he made a play that was like noteworthy, you know. And obviously tackles are big, but
That was a monster. I mean,
yeah,
flip the switch. They were down by 3 points. The Ravens actually, it was a 3rd and 1. They got the first down, but there was a penalty, so they had to go to a 3rd and 6. So they decided to throw the ball instead of just running the ball. Lamar fumbled the snap a little bit. He tossed it over the middle, and Love got the pick.
Yeah.
So I mean, Brian Daboll easily a Coach of the Year favorite so far
Oh yeah.
through 6 weeks. He's when you look at the talent that they have, they're playing way better than their talent. I mean, their defense has like a lot of good names though. Honestly,
Definitely.
you have Leonard Williams is back, Thibodeau high draft pick,
Yep.
Dory Jackson, Julian Love, McKinney.
See, like they've low key they've hit on a
Yeah,
lot of their picks over the past couple seasons, and did they even draft a tight end this past
Bellinger
year? Yeah.
actually got a chance to get his autograph at training camp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you get it?
Yeah,
That's sick.
yeah, and
That's really
he's
cool.
actually really good so far. I think he has 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean he was one of the top tight ends going out of the class this year, I
Yeah.
believe, because I know the Jets also got
Rucker, they haven't really used him
Jeremy
much.
Rucker. He was
yeah.
my favorite tight end coming out of the draft.
Yeah.
They haven't used him at all. We'll get into that in the next game, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean once again the Giants fucked me in my fantasy or in my DraftKings.
But they showed fight, man. I mean,
No, I'm
coming
happy
back-
to see the Giants are. Well, actually, I'm happy to see both New York teams are.
coming
or
back
should I
down
say even
10 is
three
impressive.
All New York teams.
Yeah, the Bills.
Fuck the Bills.
It's out of the New York market.
I
They're the,
don't-
they're
yeah,
the
right.
Canada market.
It's the
They're
Canadian
Buffalo.
team. But yeah, I mean, happy to see that all these New York teams are doing well. I mean, you look at
Yeah.
even out of this sport, but the Yankees,
Yep,
and Aaron
big game
Judge
today.
and big game. I mean, that was rained out last night,
Yeah.
but just it's great to see New York is back in strength.
Yep.
After sucking for so many years. And I mean, look at the Jets. I mean, we'll get into that right now.
Yep.
I
So I might as
think
well
it's
go
you,
into
actually.
you might as well go into the next game. The Jets at the Packers. Packers are favored by over a touchdown, but the Jets won by 17, 27-10.
Yeah. So this is one game that's interesting to me because, I went to the Jets game last week. I rooted for the Dolphins, nothing against either team. Or nothing against the Jets, I should say. Never obviously a fan of either because I'm a Patriot fan. But I'm actually really enjoying watching the Jets. I'm enjoying the players on the Jets. And then just like the story about them this year. 4-2, and to beat Green Bay at home. The Patriots didn't beat Green Bay at home.
Yep.
And not only that, we didn't put up 17 points on them. And also we also held them to 24. You guys held them to 10.
Yep.
I think the coolest thing, and I think it's kind of solidified so far this year now. You guys definitely have offensive and defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, I mean the rookies have been insane.
Absolutely.
Brees Hall got his first 100-yard rushing game. Sauce was completely clamps. He actually had a pick six to start the game, which got turned over because it hit the
ground.
It barely hit the ground, but that would have been insane.
Yeah, his hand was here, and the tip just hit the ground.
Barely touched it. But
yeah, that was the start of the game. I saw that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's fucking awesome. Because I really want him to get, not that he has to solidify anything, but I'm a fan of having players or watching players that have stats to show it. Everyone knows that.
He actually has a pass deflection in each of the 6 games, which is, I think, the
Yeah.
first time since Desmond Trufant, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. He, once again, my thing is, you look at any player and they could be consistent. Tom Brady is Tom Brady, but you look at his stats over the past, you could say every year for 20 years, he's only had a couple seasons in which all of his stats really, oh shit, that's why he's the best.
Yeah.
The rest of his stats, 27 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. That's not a ridiculous, stat line, but it's because he was so hyper efficient at moving the ball down the field.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed, at first it seemed like Rodgers wanted to test Gardner, but I was literally in my chair watching the game. I was like, throw it at Gardner because you're gonna regret it. I mean, he was all over the receivers. Randall Cobb got hurt in the game, but Quinnen Williams with a monster game.
Yep.
He was giving Aaron Rodgers fits. He had 2 sacks. He had a blocked field goal.
He was the one that blocked the field goal,
Yeah,
too?
he was ridiculous in the game. You had another rookie, Michael Clemens, block the punt, which went for a touchdown, which broke the game open, 2-touchdown game.
Yep.
I mean, Zach didn't do much, but
He's
I love this way. I love this way of winning. I mean, just rely on what's working.
Yeah.
Brees Hall, monster game, over 100 yards, first time over 100 rushing, but his touchdown, it was amazing. I mean,
I didn't see it.
it was like a trap play. It was like, I think he was actually supposed to toss the ball back, but he just saw an opening and just ran with it. And if you look at the play, there's literally the entire Packers defense behind him as he's running into the end zone. It was pretty awesome to watch. One thing of note though is Elijah Moore complained after the game about not getting targets,
Shut up, Elijah.
which I find so stupid. We won the game. Don't like, and it's not even like the offense was throwing the ball a lot. Zach wasn't at 10 completions. So why are you gonna complain in a game like that? Nobody got the ball.
Yeah.
So don't. Yeah, you're watching the clip now. Just look at. There's literally 8 Packers behind him as he's running into the end zone. He does the Lambeau leap, which was awesome.
It's so great though because there's 5 or 6 Jets fans right
Yeah,
there.
in the first row. And it was actually
Shit.
crazy. After the game, Sauce Gardner
I was gonna
says
say, speaking of the
he
Lambeau
says
leap,
it felt like a home game.
Wow.
He said it felt like there was actual like audible JETS chants when we were up in the game.
that's crazy.
It was incredible. And then he was
Speaking of
wearing
Sauce,
the
yeah.
cheese head after the game.
That made my day. That made Sauce one of my favorite players in the NFL. Walking out
It
with
was
the cheese head.
hilarious.
Somebody knocked it off. I forgot
Yeah,
who. Was it?
Lazard.
Yeah, Alan Lazard knocked it off, but so I don't know if you know this,
Awesome.
but my friend texted me yesterday morning. I'll see if I can pull it up quick. My boy is a Jets fan as well, being from New York. And he texted me a screenshot.
He signed some people's
Of-
cheese heads after the game,
This
too.
is Sauce Gardner playing.
And he's still wearing it, yeah.
He's wearing the fucking cheese head.
I didn't even know that he streamed, though. I want to watch it.
I don't know if this is going to come up on camera, but that's Sauce Gardner wearing the cheese head in his stream.
I gotta watch his stream.
Yeah, I gotta watch. That's something you gotta watch. And I looked. He's always not that it matters. He's level 77, so the dude I think is max prestige. So I don't know.
It's not like Kyler. It's not affecting his play at least. So.
Exactly. It's definitely not going to be in his contract to, watch film.
But yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, also Dwayne Brown, we got him back last week. He's been a monster.
Yeah,
Absolute
absolutely
monster.
nuts.
On the Braxton Berrios reverse
Just
touchdown,
imagine, though,
he
if you
blocked
guys-
the same guy twice. He just freaking moved him 10 yards.
Imagine what's it called could stay healthy.
Mackay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude.
but he kind of replaced. He ended up having to replace Mackay.
Yeah, but
But-
like Elijah Vera Tucker, the way
Yeah, he's
Dwayne
supposed to
Brown's
be. He's supposed to be
and
guarding.
Mackay, those 3 guys, and then even if you guys have 2 scrubs.
Yeah, the offensive line is
Three
imposing
All-Pros.
their will. The
Yeah.
defensive line as well. We were banging up Aaron Rodgers.
Do you guys still have who was the? No, it's not Carl Lawson. Is
Yeah,
it?
we have Carl Lawson. Yeah,
Who's the other guy? John Franklin Myers.
yeah, John
Still
Franklin
have him?
Myers. Yeah,
How's he playing?
yeah, he's doing pretty well
I like
this
him.
season. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, amazing game from the Jets fan perspective. To go in Lambeau, where most teams don't win, they haven't actually lost a regular season home game in over a year.
Good. Happy
To-
they fucking lost.
To not only win, but to win by 17 when you're underdogs by a touchdown. I mean, it's impressive and it's exciting to watch.
And it's funny. I'm a fan of. I am a fan of Aaron Rodgers, just because he's an asshole and he's a cocky asshole.
Yeah, I do. I honestly like Aaron Rodgers. Like, I'm not a hater of Aaron Rodgers.
No, not at all.
By any
Like-
means.
It's funny because I say he's an asshole, but like that's why I like him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, nonetheless, though, the Jets look like a real contender. And that brings us on to a team that looked like a contender, but may not be. But I think it's actually your turn.
Oh, okay. So the next game is the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts. Colts won this game 34-27. What are your thoughts?
I was shocked at the amount that they leaned on Matt Ryan's arm. I
Yep.
mean, the guy threw 58 attempts.
Yep.
Luckily, it panned out. I mean, he hit 42 of those for 3 touchdowns, almost 400 yards, and no interceptions.
He actually broke the completion record for the Colts, which is insane.
Did he?
Yep.
Well, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I mean, I was shocked, and once again, I apologize because I think maybe it was my time to read. It doesn't
It doesn't
matter.
matter. Yeah.
But, yeah, it's funny because it's not even that they wanted to lean on Matt Ryan's shoulders. I think it's just that they have they're so limited in the run game right now with injuries.
Yeah.
And luckily they do have the receiving core. I know that I was the one that said, I think this duo could be crazy in years to come. Talking about Alec Pierce, the rookie, and Michael Pittman.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, it's starting to come to fruition. I know Michael
Both of them
Pittman.
came huge.
Yeah, both of them came in. I mean, Alex Pierce with the game-winning touchdown, and Pittman, uh, who had 13 catches for 134 yards
Incredible game.
for both of them.
Yep.
Or well, actually for the entire Colts and Jaguars even. I mean, the Jaguars still put up 27 points respectively.
And I mean, they were leading in most of this game. They let it slip away. It's unfortunate for Jaguars fans. It's kind of just becoming the same story that they're used to. I mean, they
Yeah.
started the season 2-1. Now they've lost 3 straight,
Yeah.
and now you're 2 games under 500.
Not only that, Doug Peterson was talked for Coach of the Year at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
And look at what that's
Yeah.
turned into. And it's crazy because they still put up 27 points.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
and
it's
their
yeah.
defense isn't even a bad defense.
Yeah.
It's just, once again, it's similar to like how I said the Steelers. Like they're just not making plays. You know, I thought it was funny. I don't know if you saw the play where Christian Kirk got his touchdown. I don't know if he scored multiple, but I remember watching it on Red Zone. Trevor Lawrence started running out of the pocket, and then he kind of like tossed it to Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
I was 95% sure Trevor Lawrence could have ran that in, but it's like, let's give it to Kirk because he's getting paid so much money and we have to make him look good. That was just my thought process when he caught it. But nonetheless, you know, happy to see the Colts are at least trying to figure things out. I mean, they're still sitting at 3,
I mean, at least
2,
they
1.
scored touchdowns this week.
Yeah, they actually put up fucking points. So, hopefully they can continue, and I'm excited to see what happens when they can get their run game incorporated, and I think they still have to figure shit out on the line. But definitely a team to watch throughout the rest of the year. But that brings us to the Sunday 4:05 kickoff games, and that wraps up the 1 o'clock games. Also, into the next week, if first off, if anybody's watching and you guys remember or you remember, I want to start doing like a record. So like
we could be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll both say like what we think who's gonna win each game, and then we'll keep a record at the end and see like who's was right about more.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Just like a friendly wager, but
yeah.
Nonetheless, like I said, that's the 4:05 windows we're getting into now. We had the 2-3 Arizona Cardinals at the 2-3 Seattle Seahawks. Arizona was favored to win, and the Seahawks actually won 19-9. What do you think about that game?
I mean, impressive win for the Seahawks. The Cardinals really, they're floundering right now. I mean,
God, it makes me so happy.
Big note though, Tariq Woolen with his 4th game in a row with INT. He's been awesome. I mean, I like him a lot. He's a good player.
He's a rookie too, right?
His interception was pretty impressive too. It was like he's a rookie.
Yeah.
It was a leaping catch. Kenneth Walker, another rookie, playing really well for them. He had to replace Rashad Penny, who got hurt last week.
Yeah, I'm so happy you didn't play him this week because I was playing you in fantasy.
Yeah, 97 yards.
I got the win. Bro.
And he had an incredible run. Like
a
beast mode run where he broke like 4 tackles.
Yup.
Arizona's only points came off of a punt where the punter like thought he was gonna get blocked, so he tried to hold on to the ball and he fumbled it in the end zone. So I mean, Arizona's really struggling. Hollywood Brown actually got hurt in this game.
That's unfortunate.
And they attempted to replace him by trading for Robbie Anderson. Another player we'll get to.
He's a problem though.
Yeah, who got taken out of the game because he was complaining with coaches.
He's the most cocky, unproductive player I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Or hear about.
He had a couple of good games with the Jets, but he's a head case though off the field too. I remember he had a DUI or something where he told the cop to like.
He's like he's gonna fuck his wife or something.
To do something like.
Dude, I don't get it though because you're in the league, you're getting money, you're playing football. Shut up.
They traded a 6th and 7th round pick for Robbie Anderson, which I find really stupid because I don't think they were gonna.
Panthers were talking about cutting him.
He was gonna get cut. He was gonna
Panthers were literally talking about
like
cutting him.
nobody was gonna trade anything for him. You could have just picked him up on the waiver wire. I mean, 6 and 7 is not much, but
it's better than fucking. I mean, if you could get him for free.
Yeah, you could have got him.
But I mean, maybe somebody would get him in the waiver wire. I don't know
Yeah.
who's really that needy at wide receiver that they're gonna, you
Yeah.
know, or should I say, teams that are needy that also are looking to still win all their games this year.
Yeah, and I don't know where they were in the waiver wire or whatever, but one note is they're finally gonna get DeAndre Hopkins back. They do really need him.
Oh yeah.
Murray got sacked a bunch of times in this game. He had a bad game.
My problem is going into the year they planned on the offense being Marquise Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, and it's AJ Green, right? Still,
Yeah.
who's like 95.
Yeah, I mean, he looks old now,
He's
honestly.
looking so old, and I
Yeah.
mean, hey, he's still playing, so
Yeah.
respect to him. But like, that's still a solid receiving core. And, obviously DeAndre Hopkins is still getting up in age now, but he's still a monster. I mean, I don't know if it
Yeah.
was last year or the year prior, but he had like catch of the year, like
Yeah,
to win the game on three people.
yeah.
Like, dude is nuts. And I thought that he's obviously a
The
physical.
suspension was
Yeah,
big loss for them.
that's why he was out all this time, right?
Yeah,
Suspension.
suspension.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy that like, you have such a talented physical receiver, and then you mix it with a speedy guy. Like I'm a fan of teams that have, like the way the Patriots have always built teams. Not that the Patriots have ever hit on receiver too much, but they always had a massive physical guy, a smaller, agile, slower
Yeah.
guy almost.
All the
Um,
different tools that do different jobs.
exactly,
Have
and
I
because
mean
of
Rondell
that,
Moore's solid too, even.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot about
And
him.
they have Zach Ertz in the passing game, but they're just not getting it done.
In honesty, I put that on Kyler Murray.
Yeah,
You
I mean
have
he
the
said it
best
himself that
coach in the league, and one of the best coaches in the league.
he had a pretty bad quote. He said like the game hasn't felt this hard since his rookie year, so he shows he's really struggling.
And think about that. He said that as now what, a fifth year player? He
Not sure,
is. See if I can find it quick. Well, he's 25. He was drafted in what, 18?
but I mean it's frustrating for the Cardinals. Like especially they gave him such a huge contract. I,
Imagine paying somebody is similar to like the Broncos that we'll get to, paying somebody all that money to do
and not having a good
nothing.
year. Yep.
Like it's a waste of money.
And I mean the Seahawks are a frisky team. They're 3-3 now. They're hanging in there. I mean their division's not been playing as well as it could have been. There should have been.
Well, I'm a huge fan of
So
Geno Smith this year.
yeah, I mean Geno was having a ridiculous year on top of
He was
it.
on the Jets, right, at the beginning of
Yeah,
his career. It's so shocking to me.
it's crazy.
Just what a turnaround. I mean, first off, I think it's hilarious that the Seahawks with Geno Smith are doing better than the Broncos with Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
And we'll get to that again, but
and they have their picks too.
yeah.
So
And the fact that Geno Smith fucking led a team over the Cardinals with the injuries they have, and the way that Arizona is not only coached, but the roster is just amusing to me, especially as somebody who is a big hater of Kyler Murray.
yeah,
I said he was cocky going into it. I thought he was a player that could make he thought that he could make all the plays himself, that he was the star and fuck everybody else basically. And I think it's starting to show. It's that this is a team sport.
yeah.
And if you want to have that attitude, your team's not going to go far.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that brings us to our next game, the Panthers at the Rams. The Rams were a 10.5 point favorite, and they covered the spread. They won 24-10. What are your thoughts on this game?
This is similar to the Bengals game, in my opinion. And the only reason I say that is it's two teams that needed to win.
Yeah,
You got the Rams who came into this game 2-3 after being in the Super Bowl, and not only being in the Super Bowl but winning the Super
Yeah.
Bowl. Everyone expected them to be that same team. They didn't really lose like a ridiculous amount of talent. They lost big names. In Von Miller, they lost Odell.
and Whitworth. So
and-
they kind
and-
of did lose.
Okay, so they did lose. Okay, so yes, they did lose big talent, but you still have so much other
Yeah,
talent.
I know what you're
like,
saying.
That's what I'm
yeah.
saying. Like, although you're losing big names, you still have some of the biggest names in sports on that team. On top of that, the likes of Cooper Kupp, the likes of Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
Why aren't you guys winning games?
I think it also could be because they traded a lot of picks to get those talent.
Yeah, they
So they
can't
don't-
draft any.
So they don't really have influx of talent, the younger players. But I mean, they got a championship out of it, so I don't think any Rams fan would like. I know personally,
Would you
I would
trade
not-
away a season?
I would not give a crap because I mean,
If they
I've
win
already
the Super
had
Bowl,
games where it
yeah.
was as if they traded away the entire team. So like, I would take a championship in a heartbeat if you're telling me we have to suck for 5 years at. But I don't think they suck, but they're definitely struggling. They lost Joe Noteboom, their left tackle. for the rest of the season on a line that was already banged up and performing really bad. So I think Stafford's going to continue to get killed in the pocket.
So interesting that you talk about Stafford. Last year he threw for 41 touchdowns to 17 interceptions. The first 6 games last year he had 15 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. And they didn't add Odell until later in the season,
Yeah,
correct?
he wasn't.
So
Yeah, it
this
was
is
later
without
this year.
Odell. So the only thing that really changed on that offense was that one, them losing Whitworth. But 15 touchdowns to 4 interceptions this year through 6 games, or he has 6 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. His quarterback rating last year as a whole finished the year at 111. This year finishing right now at 91.
Yeah.
Crazy to also think that this year he has been sacked 22 times.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive
Um,
line is really, really rough.
Struggling so bad, and it's crazy because like last year, um, last year was 17 games, right? It was the first year
Yeah,
we did 17.
17, yeah.
Through 17 games last year, he was sacked 30 times. This year through 6, he's been sacked
It's
22
incredible.
already.
Yeah.
But he also just like I watched one interception. I think they took it for 6 this week.
I mean,
Why the fuck did you throw it?
the thing is,
He's
this
blanketed.
this game, although they covered the spread for a while, it looked like they were gonna actually lose this game.
Yeah.
They were not playing good. They kind of just only covered the spread because the Panthers just really are a crappy team.
Yeah.
They were the interim coach, PJ Walker, he's a third string quarterback, got hurt, and they had to put in Jacob Eason because they lost Baker. Darnold's been hurt for this year,
That's
so
right.
they just are having no luck at quarterback.
It's funny though. Not funny, but a lot of teams are down to the third string after 6 weeks,
Yeah.
or have
Yeah, I mean, you have the Patriots, you have the
Patriots,
Dolphins,
the Jets had quarterback
Panthers,
struggles, but
yeah,
never to
Jets
the
did,
third.
yeah.
Panthers are the worst out of all of them.
Cowboys have been using a backup
Cowboys.
quarterback.
Like there's so many backups that have had a
Yeah.
lot of play time this year.
Yeah.
Even the Saints.
Yeah, Saints,
Like
Jameis, I mean,
I think that's crazy.
yeah.
But nonetheless, Chris McCaffrey also had a great game.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm happy to see that not only him but Saquon are both back.
It's interesting to see if he's gonna get traded.
That's a
'Cause
lot of talk right now.
They've been talking about that, and they traded Robbie Anderson after this game. So, I mean, Robbie Anderson was complaining about to the coaches, really, really bitching on the sideline. He got sent to the locker room early because of it.
Fuck him.
So, I mean, the Panthers, there's not much to take out of the season. I mean, I think the Panthers fans, you want to lose at this point.
Absolutely.
Sadly, as a Jets fan, this is where I would usually be after 6 weeks, most of these seasons.
Yeah.
And you gotta, I mean, you hate to root for your team to lose, but it's more beneficial to lose. Maybe they could get a top flight quarterback. So
Yeah, definitely.
now you're looking at tankathon.com.
Like if you guys tank and your biggest problem is quarterback right now, you have big quarterbacks in the draft next year.
Exactly.
C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State. I know a lot of people say Ohio State quarterbacks don't pan out. Right now, you could see that kind of with Justin Fields. But I still like the pick.
Yeah.
If we ever get to that point, and then Bryce Young, who is my favorite quarterback in college right now. I mean, I got to see him play live last year, in the SEC championship. Unbelievable player. Maybe this is a team that will have a quarterback like that. Maybe the Lions are another team that may have a quarterback too like that.
Towards the bottom, yeah.
Towards the bottom. But nonetheless, happy the Rams finally got the win that they need. Hopefully that will push them to win some more games, with the stacked roster they have.
Yeah.
And once again, being Super Bowl players are in the Super Bowl last year. So, with that being said, though, that brings us to the end of this team. After we take a quick break to reset the timer, we're going to talk about probably or arguably one of the biggest matchups of the week, the Buffalo Bills at Kansas City. All right, guys, we are back now after the quick break. And now, like I said, we're getting into the biggest matchup of the week, in my opinion. The Buffalo Bills 4-1 going into the game at the 4-1 Kansas City Chiefs. First time that Patrick Mahomes was an underdog. Obviously, we saw the big matchup last year that they had in which the Chiefs won. This time around, though, the Bills clinched the win 24-20 visiting Kansas City. What did you think about that crazy fucking game?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very solid game. It was hard to live up to the expectations of the way the game went last year,
Yeah.
but it was a very good game. As a Jets fan, though, I was pissed off that the Chiefs couldn't win because if they did win, the Jets would actually be in first place because we would have the
Yeah.
tiebreaker over the Bills. I mean, Josh Allen had a great game, 27 for 40, 329 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
Diggs was great. Mahomes, he had two interceptions. He doubled his interception total for the year.
Literally in one game.
Yeah. I mean, the first one was, I mean, a ridiculous play by the rookie Elam
Yeah, wasn't it? It
in
was
the
in
end
the
zone.
end zone, right?
Yeah. And then the second one was the end of the game. Didn't see the safety come underneath that route.
Well, I think
But
that was also just a great play. That was by Teron Johnson.
yeah,
And I thought that was just an awesome play as well.
yeah,
But that's what happens when you play solid defenses. You know,
yeah. I
not
mean, their
only
defense
solid,
is
but
really, really good.
exactly. So
They have great talent along the board.
yeah,
Juju Smith finally had a great game.
I'm happy to see that he's
Yeah.
produced something. You
Yeah.
know, because of the fact that like he once again another player similar to Chase Claypool when they was on the Steelers. Both had ridiculous rookie years. Everyone expected the world for them. Juju Smith, I think, though, produced for a couple seasons, like yardage wise and touchdowns.
Yeah,
I think he had like 1,400 yards the second year,
yeah,
something like that. But nonetheless, you know, now he's in Kansas City, and I thought that he would be perfectly paired with Patrick Mahomes. And luckily, you know, they're starting to get on the same page. Likewise, Stephon Diggs had a massive game.
yeah,
10 catches, 85 yards, and a tutty. I have him in fantasy. That's why I have him, because I think
yeah.
that's one of the most dangerous duos in the league, especially when you have to guard not only him, but Gabe Davis. But once again, fun game to watch.
And I mean, even though I dislike the Bills, it was cool to see Dawson Knox get the game-winning touchdown. He had his brother.
I don't think I watched it.
His
Oh, I did, because his brother
his
passed
brother
away,
passed
right?
away, yeah,
Yeah.
in the off season. But I mean, that was a ridiculous throw and catch. I mean, Allen had a great game. One thing I do get nervous though. I think I mean, he takes too many hits because, like, when he's
The way
in
they run the
positions,
ball.
when Josh Allen's in a position where he can just slide, he doesn't slide. He'll try and get the extra couple yards, and
You
he
saw
takes
him
a
go
hit.
for the trucks instead of like going out of bounds.
Yeah, and
to
he
get
took a
what,
big hit in
a
the
yard?
back at one point where it's like, listen, you're the quarterback. You're the franchise quarterback. I know you're a big guy. You can do this. Maybe do that in the playoffs. I mean, a regular season. I mean, this was almost a playoff game, but he does it every single game.
Yeah.
Like, just learn how to slide. I don't think I've ever seen him slide.
No,
I actually don't
neither
think I've
have I.
ever seen him slide.
And that's what's kind of like I get it because he's a bigger player, you know, and they expect him to be able to power through that. But if you lose Josh Allen, you're not winning any games.
Yeah, you're done.
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't know who the backup is, but I don't think you're winning games.
I think it's
Is it Jake
Keenum.
Case Keenum?
I think it's Keenum. I'm not
And then
sure.
what? Third string is Jake Fromm.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're not winning games with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's why they got to be careful. They got to be better with that. Their run game actually did decent
It's
today.
Matt Barkley.
Oh, it's Barkley.
This
damn.
can't be right. Is this year?
Yeah. I mean,
Is it Matt Barkley? I mean, I'm looking.
Let me see the
through,
depth
instead of just
chart.
looking at the depth chart, I'm looking at like.
oh yeah, it's Case Keenum, second string.
Yeah, here it is. Bills address backup QB by trading for Case Keenum.
I mean, it's almost as if they, even though Singletary did a little bit of a better game this week, it's almost as if they consider, okay, we don't have a run game. Josh Allen's our run game.
Buffalo Bills' current roster supposedly includes Terrell Owens,
Yeah, I mean,
and Vince Ferragamo.
some of these Googles can be terrible.
I'm sorry, that's so random. But like, Sammy Watkins, isn't he retired? Or
No, he's on the Packers.
Oh, he is on the
Yeah.
Packers, but that's just.
But I mean, this is a revenge game for the Bills. But they did beat the Chiefs last year in the regular season.
Supposedly, the 1985 roster for the Bills, who included Vince Ferragamo at quarterback, also have him this year. I mean, talk about a player of time. But yeah, sorry, I was on a tangent there. But
And also you had Von Miller have 2 sacks. That's their big difference maker and addition on that team.
oh yeah,
They were talking about how he would get like a small amount of the snap count, which just kept him fresh to get those extra burst on those offensive linemen who were in the game the whole game.
Yep.
But this game he played way more snaps. He had 2 sacks.
absolutely. And I think obviously he's getting up there in age, but still obviously a super productive player.
Yeah.
And not that the Chiefs line is anything to write home about, but it's definitely improved over the years.
Yeah, I mean it's solid now, yeah.
Yeah, and he's still been able to to produce 2 sacks on it.
Yeah.
Once again, I think speaking about the Chiefs though and their offense, and I don't know if you had mentioned anything about Travis Kelsey, but he did have 108 yards this year or this week. Coming off a 4 touchdown week prior. Um, but I like that Juju Smith and Travis Kelsey can start being a duo of their own as long as Patrick Mahomes can get Juju involved more.
And this game is big in another way is that this really could determine who is going to be the higher seed in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Who's going to get that home game? I mean, now the
absolutely.
Bills have the tiebreaker. The so this is a really big loss for the Chiefs in that sense as well.
Yeah,
Because the last 2 years they had the home playoff game against them and they beat them. If the Bills have the home playoff game, it could be a difference maker. So
absolutely. And I also, speaking about the receiving core for the Chiefs, one last thing is I'm a fan of McCole Hardman.
yeah, he's
He's
really
just
solid.
so fast.
Yeah.
That's why I always thought they were so dangerous when they had
Hill
McCole
and
and
McCoy,
Tyreek
yeah.
Hill. And it's almost like the only difference that Tyreek Hill gets when going to the Dolphins is now that instead of McCole, he has Jalen Waddle, who I think is going to be a top receiver.
Yeah.
Top 5, I think. Not this year, maybe, but within the next 3 or 4 years, he'll be considered a top 5 receiver.
Yeah.
But yeah, nonetheless, an interesting game. Definitely a game that matters because we'll see where that takes us
And the seeding.
in the seeding because they're both obviously playoff teams. They're definitely going to play each other later on this year, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that brings us to the end of the 4 o'clock window games, and on to the last game for the Sunday window.
So Sunday night we had big NFC East matchup: the Cowboys at the Eagles. Philadelphia was favored by 6 points, and they got the win, 26-17. What are your thoughts on this game?
So I was pumped. First off, I took the Eagles and everything once again. The reason I took them is because I knew that Cooper Rush was not leading that team he was managing, and everyone said, "Oh, Cooper Rush could be the leader of that team for years to come." Maybe we keep him at quarterback instead of Dak. And you look at the stats; they were winning games because of the rushing team. They weren't passing the ball much, and when they did, it was small passes. It wasn't me bombing the ball down the field and making plays at quarterback. And that's what you saw. As soon as Cooper Rush was relied on, he threw for 3 interceptions. In the first half alone, if you just took the first half, he had a 1 quarterback rating. One
This is terrible.
going into the half. That's like
Yeah.
I could do better than that. Being 5'7", 230 and can't run a mile right now without passing out.
Yeah. I mean, it was an impressive win for the Eagles. This was
Yeah.
like the C.J. Gardner Johnson had 2 picks. He actually got hurt in this game, but he came back into the game and got another interception. Jalen Hurts continues to be productive.
Yep.
I mean, this game was hard for me to watch, being partial towards the Giants, just because
Yeah.
I hate both of these teams so much. So it was just difficult to watch.
Well, I hit the Cowboy. I hit the Eagles for fucking us in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
With
I
Nick
mean,
Foles.
I'm just really praying on the downfall of the Eagles.
What's funny? Speaking of that, I don't know. You might have to be rooting a little bit longer, and the only reason I say that is because the last time they were undefeated was when they won the Super Bowl.
And I don't think their schedule really gets that difficult too. I'm gonna pull it
I don't
up.
think so.
Like, so they have they're home against the Steelers next week. The Steelers suck.
I'll take them winning.
You have them at the Texans. The Texans
That's
suck.
a win for them.
They're home against the Commanders.
That's a win.
Commanders suck. Then they're at the Colts. I mean, that's a little bit more difficult.
Bet you
Home
that's
against
a
the
win.
Packers. Home against the Titans. It gets a little bit hard, but their next three are
Packers are.
their next three. I
I don't
think they're
know.
9-0.
Yeah,
Like,
I think they're guaranteed playoffs if they win the next 3
Yeah.
to 4.
so I mean, the Eagles don't really have much to worry about right now.
Right now, I'm happy, and if you're not going based off just stats, I mean, Hurts for MVP.
Yeah.
Just once again, being that player that can both run the ball and pass the ball. I mean, and I say pass the ball, he only accounts for 6 touchdowns in the air, but it's because of his ability to run.
Yeah.
I think he had almost 10 rushes last game.
And in the second half of this game, I really thought the Cowboys might make it interesting. They did. They got it within 3 points, but then the Eagles got another touchdown to put it away. And then the Cowboys had a field goal attempt to try and make it a one-score game and go for an onside. They missed it.
Yeah.
But
See, I just pulled up Jalen Hurts' rushing stats this year. Sorry, I'm yawning. Um, he has 77 rushing attempts for almost 300 yards and 6 touchdowns. He has 6 in the air.
Yeah.
So this year alone, he's accounted for the same amount in the air that he has rushing by himself. My thing is as although his connection got better with Devonta Smith, and it's getting better, I should say.
Yeah.
Who I was obviously a fan of the draft pick last year in him. Um, you paid all this money and also traded for AJ Brown, and he's not going to be happy there, and I don't think Devonta Smith will be there for years without interception or without touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's having a decent season.
AJ Brown?
Yeah.
No, I think he is too, but I think it's
He's
statistically
averaging
because of
50
yards.
yards a game. Or, no, he has 500 yards already this season, actually.
But I think that it's the fact that they're not getting in the end zone is going to be something that's going to make them
Yeah.
unhappy over
Yeah, he
years.
only has 2 touchdowns in total.
I mean, Devonta Smith is on pace right now to finish the year with 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah. I
Which
mean, they
isn't a
have
bad year.
a solid wide receiver duo, though,
Oh yeah.
for the two of them. And their rush game has been insane.
If only they could have kept Zach Ertz, actually.
Yeah, Goddard actually had a drop in this game.
Fuck
Even
yeah.
though he's decent, he's solid.
Where did was Dallas Goddard always there?
I think so. I mean, he
'Cause-
he rose in the ranks, and then they traded away Ertz because
yeah, that's because I remember
Yeah.
he got good, and they were like, "Oh, we don't need, you know,
But I
we don't
mean,
need whatever."
the NFC East is just insane though. Now you have the 6-0 Eagles, 5-1 Giants, 4-2 Cowboys, who might be getting Dak back this week. I heard he's gonna get cleared soon, so it's gonna be interesting to see how the Cowboys play once they get him back. But their run game got going. Zeke actually had a good game.
Who's the last? That's the Commanders, right?
The Commanders.
Don't leave them
yeah,
out, bro.
they're the only ones in the division who are lagging.
Every year, though, usually it's close
Yeah.
across all 4 teams.
I mean, and they're like I mentioned last week, they haven't had a repeat division winner in like over 10 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's gonna happen because the Cowboys were the division winner last year. Now they're 2 games back. So,
Yeah. I mean, my thing is though, even though they lost, I don't think you could be mad with the way they're playing this year.
yeah, I mean,
because
have to
of
be
the fact they
thrilled.
don't have Dak.
They went 4-1 without Dak.
Yeah.
Like nobody expected that. The season should have been over. They should be below 500, but somehow they're 4-2.
They've had a great defense. Now you add Dak back to that, and if Dak can produce the way he can usually by yardage, and they've had a good rushing offense. Once again, where's their weakness? Great defense, can pass the ball, and have a solid rushing team.
Yeah.
I think they could honestly continue to win. Most of their games. Like they're sitting at 4-2 right now. I could see them going like 12-5.
Yeah.
I could see the Eagles, going maybe like 14-3.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles are insane.
Something like
I
that.
I really don't know when their first loss is gonna come. Honestly.
I just hope in my lifetime that we get to see, and I maybe. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's been 50-something years since it's happened last. A team go undefeated through the
Throughout
regular
the-
season into the playoffs and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
It's been close. The Patriots were
the Giants.
undefeated.
Yeah.
I believe were they undefeated?
2007.
Yeah. But then
The
they
Giants
lost.
beat them in the Super Bowl.
Was that Tyree's catch?
Yeah, David Tyree.
That's some bullshit. I cannot. We lose the fucking Super Bowl to the one catch.
The
to
best
go
catch of all time.
undefeated for the
The
entire
best
year.
catch of all time.
This is so bullshit.
It's alright. You guys have won enough. It's alright.
I would have been happier with 7. With 7 for the GOAT. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, that brings us to the end of the Sunday games. Once again, that was a big game for the week.
Yep.
And last but not least, the Monday night game. Unfortunately, another. Oh my god, I'm yawning again. Jeez. Sorry. Unfortunately, another Denver Broncos primetime game, but we got. Was it me that's supposed to read it, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The 2-3 Broncos played the 3-2 Chargers. It was -5, the Chargers against the spread. 19-16 Chargers victory in overtime. What are your thoughts about that horrendous game once again?
I mean, it wasn't as bad as the games had been in the past for them, but
Completely horrendous.
and Russell Wilson actually did get going a little bit. He completed his first 10 passes. He was actually having a great first half. He had two
Now that
great.
you now that you said that though, that he
It,
completed his first 10, it
yeah,
makes his
yeah,
stat line look a lot
yeah.
shittier.
He finished the game with
Because he
15
threw
for
the ball for
28,
yeah.
188
That means
yards,
he was
one
5 for
touchdown.
18 in the second,
So he definitely
time.
fell off, but he had two throws in a row that were ridiculous. He rolled out of the pocket. He
Was
laid
it
a
the one that KJ Hamler was one of them?
no, he laid a dart to Judy, and then for like a 30-yard gain, and then a big like 30-yard touchdown to the rookie Dulcich. So
He didn't he
I mean,
also there was a big play though with KJ Hamler, right? I think it got called
yeah,
back maybe.
I think he hit him on one.
I
There,
heard it on the TV last night when I was at work, and I didn't get to see the play, but I know that the announcer was going crazy. He was like KJ Hamler.
but the Broncos, the without Ronald Darby, their rookie cornerback got picked on all game. He had a
He
couple
just got
penalties.
dunked on.
Yeah, and this is not an impressive win for the Chargers. I think they should have
No.
handled business like
Oh
way
yeah.
more.
You know,
Like
both in the air and on the ground.
yeah, I
Herbert
mean
threw the ball 57 freaking times.
for
Like,
only 238, which is
yeah,
terrible.
and an interception. He didn't even
Yeah.
get a touchdown. And and I thought it was crazy. Like I looked at the stats this morning before we started recording, and like you look at Austin Eckler this game, he had led the team in receptions and rushing attempts, and it didn't amount to the end zone either way.
Yeah.
And
Well, he got one rushing touchdown.
this game,
Yeah, it was a crazy rushing touchdown.
you serious?
Yeah, he got like plowed. Like the
How did I miss that?
offensive line literally pushed the defense back 10 yards. Like the center like moved the guy 10 yards. It was insane. He was he
That's
had a
so
decent
wild.
game. Yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't even realize I fucking missed that. But yeah, 14 for 36 is nothing to write home
Yeah.
about. It was 2.6 a carry, which is crazy.
yeah.
But you look at his season so far as a rushing back. Um, First game, 14 for 39, similar to this game, average 2.8 a carry.
He went off
Second
against the
game,
Browns.
4 for 5 for 1.3. That was versus the Jaguars. Texans 13 for 60 for 4.6, and then the Browns, like you said, he went
He's
off
insane.
16 for 173.
But I think he's also not like he's more useful in the passing game. Honestly,
Because
he's
like
a better
he's a smaller
receiving back. Yeah.
sitting at 5'8", and I think it's crazy because first off, most guys his size don't last long in the league, and he's been great ever since he joined the league. Uh, he's actually one of those cool guys that I enjoy watching because I saw him on one of those interviews, on YouTube somewhere where they were talking about how like he spent I think his first $1 million, and like the dude invests and like all that. Like he's a really smart player.
Yeah.
And I think that like smart players, I think if you're smart off the field, goes a long way on the field.
Yeah.
And I think that's an underrated thing that people don't look into. But nonetheless, I'm a little upset that they didn't get it done, more. And I don't know how the receiving core was going into the game if everyone was playing.
Allen was out.
See, Allen was out, but they still got Mike Williams, and he didn't do anything really.
Yeah, he didn't do much. I mean,
I don't know what the stats were, but I know I didn't write them down. And the reason I didn't write them down is because they weren't enough.
Donald Parham actually had a solid game.
He had like 3 for 57, I think.
Yeah, he got involved.
Fucking
I think he's
dogs.
missed a bunch of games so far. But one thing that's interesting is Latavius Murray. He went 15 for 66. But what I find crazy though is like how is he really out of the league like this? He was off the league until the London game with the Saints and the Vikings, where the Saints picked him up because Kamara was hurt.
Did he
And
play
then
for the Vikings the first part of his career too?
yeah, and then they just dropped him right away though, which I find crazy because he had a good game in that game. The Broncos were able to pick him up because they're hurting with Javante being gone. So I mean, I think that's a good addition for them.
Absolutely. I
I mean,
I always thought he was a decent back though.
yeah, like
and
yeah, I was impressed, like surprised that he was not in the league really this year.
that's so weird, seeing that he played. He had 11 carries for 57 versus the Vikings, and then 2 weeks
Yeah,
later,
different team.
another team and versus the Chargers.
Yeah,
And I always find it cool, seeing like players that like, some players take so long to like start building into a new system. This guy averaged 4.4 yards a carry in a completely new offense, and I get it. Running the ball is hitting a hole and running.
yeah,
And I could say that playing running back, like, but he literally played for a different team
yeah.
the same season.
yeah.
And I know obviously a lot of players have done that, but
It's impressive. Yeah,
within a week, like all of a sudden he's on a different team. But no, once again, was that wasn't a crazy primetime type game. One other thing though, or I guess you could say two other things, is Alex Singleton. I just thought was interesting. Had 21 tackles. 19 of those were solo tackles. The
That's
Broncos
crazy.
middle linebacker. Um, in previous years, he's averaged like 40 a year. So like in one game, he's literally half of what he usually gets in a season. Thought that was just a cool stat. And Dustin Hopkins for MVP
For the Chargers.
for the
Yeah, the
Chargers.
Chargers have had really bad kicking luck.
But
It's
I
nice to
heard
see
that
that they actually.
I
But
heard he was hurt though.
yeah, I think he did hurt his leg on one play. But like, it seemed like every single Chargers kick, it literally just barely goes behind the upright.
Yeah,
It literally just barely stays inside of the
and then
upright.
yeah.
It seems like everyone's gonna miss.
You see, the only
But
reason I thought that he was hurt,
yeah, he was grabbing his leg after one kick. He went to the intent.
the only reason I thought it though is because I woke up I woke up at almost 5 o'clock this morning, just because I couldn't sleep, and I rolled over and I got on my phone and I didn't see what the ending of the game was because I was asleep, and there it is behind the
Yeah.
pole.
But like literally every kick was that way too, which was weird.
I just remember, um,
Yeah, he was
he's
grabbing,
grabbing his
leg.
hamstring
Yeah.
as he kicks it. That's
Yep.
wild.
But another thing to note though is the Broncos now down to 2-4. Going to the year, they were considered to be a potential division, I mean, not to win the division, but to at least make the playoffs. They're playing the Jets next week, which we're gonna get into in our preview on Thursday. But it's disappointing too because the Broncos defense has been amazing, absolutely amazing. Brandon Browning has been great for them
just
too.
injuries.
Sertan, they have Simmons got back this game. Chubb, like they're loaded, so it's been disappointing.
I'm always curious to know like what that defense could have been if had they kept Von Miller.
Yeah,
Having Chubb and Von Miller on either side. I mean that's just like that's nuts.
yeah, but it's a very disappointing start for the Broncos. I mean,
Especially when you're paying a quarterback over 200 million.
and they had to trade so many assets to get him too. So
It wasn't all guaranteed money, right?
I think there was like 150 guaranteed.
Russell Wilson's still making out like a bandit.
Yeah.
But I like to think though that it's not fully on him and it's more the scheme.
And also supposedly he has he's dealing with a lat injury, but
50 million signing bonus, 161 million guaranteed of a 242 $million contract. That is
I mean that's
so
insane.
crazy. That breaks down to an average annual. I just want to see what they're paying him cap every year. Cap hit for this year's 17, next year's 22.
See, it's weird that they could do this stuff.
Now they could do that stupid shit where they could extend it.
Yeah.
But it's still they're gonna pay 35 in 2024, which is high, but then it jumps up to 55 in 2025, 58 in.
So that means they're really expecting to win in these couple of years. And
oh yeah,
this
they have to win within the next 4 years, or really 2.
Yeah.
3.
But yeah, it's
3. Yeah, because they have the next 3 years, 17 this year, 22 the year after, and 35 in 2024. And then you have 4 years where it's going to be up in the 50s.
Big, yeah.
High 50s at that.
But now it's big. This is a big win for the Chargers. They're now tied for first because the Chiefs won. I mean, the Chiefs lost, so now they're both 4-2. But I mean, the Broncos and the Raiders are coming up the rear in that division.
Yeah, I think I think I said earlier in the video or the podcast that it's still we're at that time of the season still where any team can really still if they wanted to
make a run. Yeah,
it's not
really over for any team right now. But
yeah, I mean obviously you could still count the Commanders and the Panthers. You basically would say it's over for them, but they could prove us wrong and win out here and still be either top of the division or wild card at the minimum. But who knows? I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be. I think this year it's really going to rely on who's healthy, and who's not. We've seen a lot of injuries this year so far, but I'm definitely excited to see where the rest of the year goes for each team.
Yep.
Just want to check the timer. But with that being said, we're going to do just a quick outro because we got a couple more minutes left on the timer. But that wraps up this last team for the week. Thursday we're going to be back talking about the upcoming week for week 7 of the NFL. Talk about the games, the matchups, the players we like, who we don't. any injuries or any news that happen over the next couple days. Maybe even a trade, depending on this news about Christian McCaffrey. But I don't know. Did you want to say anything or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited. I mean, this is our first full week where we previewed and also recapped the week. So I think the chemistry and just getting the flow down better has been it's been useful.
Absolutely.
And I'm excited to continue because now as we move forward, we'll have stuff to touch back on that we've talked about in previous episodes. So
Yeah, and I think like finally that's starting to come in like now. Like I know we both been mentioning like what we talked about either the last episode or the episode prior. Um, and it's just cool to get into that flow and to be able to use some of that information that we've had already, or like it's obviously a lot easier to recall things if you're the one that said it.
yeah,
So like I could remember certain things I've said and be able to bring up those points, and I know Paul's the same way. Uh, but yeah, once again, thank you guys for being here for episode 3. Just going over the week 6 recap. Episode 4, like we said, will be the week 7 preview. Um, we're happy to see that things are growing. We're just improving. And with that being said, that's all we have time for today, folks. Thank you guys for watching the Ready Set Hike podcast, and
make
we will
sure to
see
like
you.
and subscribe.
Make sure to leave a like and a subscribe if anybody's still here. And we will see you guys in the next episode.